What's up, guys? Welcome back to Chris's MMA Universe. For this video here, I'm going to be talking about pretty much if there were going to be a rematch with Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. Now, their first fight, a lot of people think that Conor McGregor got dominated, but then they were also saying that Conor McGregor actually didn't do so bad. Now, my thoughts and opinions on this are, I believe, I know in round one, Conor McGregor was actually doing pretty good, like with the defense. I know he got taken down, but no damage was being able to be done to him by Khabib. Now, I know that round two, big overhand right hand that actually caught Conor McGregor on the chin and dropped him. Now, Conor McGregor didn't get rocked. Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, what do you mean? He dropped, he dropped to the floor. Yeah, he definitely got dropped, but he didn't get rocked. He came right back up, and he already had his composure, and then came back to win round three. So, for people to say he got rocked, I don't believe is accurate, because he definitely got dropped. He definitely got caught clean. But it wasn't like he was out of it after that, also to come back to win round three, I thought was actually pretty big. And I believe that he was Khabib's biggest test because, correct me if I'm wrong and let me know in the comments, but I believe Conor McGregor was the one and only fighter right now to actually even win a round against Khabib. No other fighter was able to do that. So to say that Khabib dominated Conor McGregor and Conor McGregor got dominated by Khabib, I don't think is absolutely true. I think Conor actually did pretty good for having a pretty long hiatus and actually coming back from a boxing match to face the greatest fighter in the lightweight division right now. Arguably one of the best fighters, definitely one of the best fighters ever, arguably the pound for pound number one. And, for Conor McGregor to come back after a long layoff and then immediately come back in to fight the best, that's the kind of guy Conor McGregor is, right? He would take any fight against anyone. And that's why, you can't say too many bad things about Conor. For a lot of you guys that don't like Conor, but I know there's a lot of people out there that love Conor, and I'm one of the guys that love Conor. I love Conor and I love Khabib. They're both great, insane fighters. I love the mentality of Conor McGregor and the mentality of Khabib where they will pretty much fight anybody. Khabib was in the line for a while to get that lightweight championship for a while where he actually quit, as a matter of fact. Well, he actually was telling his father, now this is Khabib telling his father that he wants to retire. And this is before he was the lightweight champion. He was like, yeah, he thinks he's done. There's no reason for him to keep going. And, his father, his coaches, everybody was telling him, listen, you've been trying to be the lightweight champion for a while. You can't stop now before you gain that lightweight championship. You can't stop now. You got to go for what you wanted all along. For your number one goal to be the UFC lightweight world champion. And luckily he listened and, he felt like it's true on what they're saying and it's true that that's what he wants and that's what he gained. But for these two guys to go at it again, I know a lot of people are thinking it's just going to be the same outcome. It's how Conor just doesn't have what it takes to beat Khabib. Now, something that some people were saying that, Conor McGregor went in there cold. He went in there, like a cold sweat kind of where, not saying he's scared by any means. Anybody fighting at that level is not scared. Anybody fighting at that high level, nobody's scared of one another. You're at too much of a high level to be scared. When has Conor McGregor ever seemed to be scared to fight anybody? And the same goes for Khabib. But I would say more so even Conor. I mean, his self-belief and self-confidence is just through the roof. But I know a lot of people, are saying that the same outcome will happen. And Conor McGregor kind of came in with like a cold sweat, where he was like cold, where he just didn't seem like he was in it really 100%. Where it kind of just seemed like, watching him come out to the octagon for that fight that night just seemed like, Conor McGregor, I believe he's not in it, and I believe he's going to lose this fight tonight. He just didn't seem like he was the same guy, I mean, coming back from a boxing fight, I actually thought that was going to make his boxing crisp. But honestly, I think he came in with a different style that we've actually never seen him be. Like, he didn't seem like the same fighter with the same style that we've seen him at possibly his best performance when he fought Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title to become champ. To become the UFC's very first, multiple division champ, and simultaneously to be the very first UFC's champ. And he made history that night. I mean, to be in Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena where the greats have fought. Muhammad Ali versus Frazier, Tyson fought, it's just the greatest arena, the world famous arena. And for Conor McGregor to go out there and get it done to become the UFC's very first champ at possibly the UFC's best card to date was just nothing short of amazing. It was just phenomenal to watch. I'm so glad I watched that live. It was just something incredible. And, if anybody could do it, why not Conor? Right? I mean, Conor has this amazing star power where, I mean, he even made the Floyd Mayweather boxing match become his boxing debut and his one and only boxing fight right now so far, and actually made that happen and made, over $100 million. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But if these two guys were to face off again, like I was saying, I know a lot of guys think it would be the same outcome. A lot of people think it would be the same outcome. And, you wouldn't be entirely wrong to think that. I mean, Khabib is just amazing. I don't see anybody really even giving him a real test. But if they were to fight again, I believe rematches could be a lot different. As we've seen in the past, I know rematches, at least recently, like with John Jones, let's say, for example, but I know John Jones is not really too fair to talk about when it comes to rematches, right? I mean, John Jones is the great, but I mean, like the all-time greatest of all time, GOAT, period, right? But, to say that, John Jones is actually dominant in his rematches, but, I believe that it could be different in this fight, in this instance. I believe if Conor McGregor were to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov for a second time, if they were to do this rematch, I believe Conor McGregor could win. I mean, Conor McGregor is pretty much begging for this rematch. I mean, he wants this rematch so bad because he believes that he will go in there to fight him for the second time and things will go his way. He believes that he will completely beat and finish Khabib. He just knows that he can do it. And honestly, it's hard to count Conor McGregor out. I know he lost against Khabib. I know we all know that. And I believe that was the fight that Khabib needed to really feel like the world lightweight champion. You know what I mean? Because Conor McGregor didn't lose the belt to a fight. He got stripped. As I said in my Khabib Dustin Poirier fight thoughts and opinion video that I actually made, go back and check that one out if you haven't already. But Khabib needed that fight. He needed to win. He needed to beat Conor to actually really have everybody think of him as, the world champion. And I know Khabib right now is not really liking the fact that he's becoming more famous. Like, he feels like he doesn't want to be this noticed. That's why I say before in my past video with the Khabib Poirier, he's more so for the hardcore fans. where he believes that money's good, but too much money's no good, and he just cares about fighting, and, he just wants to, solidify his legacy, and, just as like one of the best ever, and just go out there and just compete, against these high-level guys and win, but, honestly, and if they were to fight again with Khabib having this mentality where he feels like winning is not too important to him anymore, that's why I really think a guy like Conor, because, going into their first fight against each other with Khabib and Conor, a lot of people were saying that they were each other's kryptonite. It was either Conor was just going to KO him or Khabib was going to maul him. And, for the most part, yeah, Conor did really just, he gave up towards the end. Like he was too tired, and he ended up having to tap to that head crank that Khabib had him in, pretty tightly. And, Khabib was probably given the strongest force he was able to give on Conor, because all the talk that he was talking to him through the fight, talking to him in between rounds on their way back to their corners. And, Khabib was just not playing any games. He had his eye on the ball, and it was just pure focus for Khabib. He needed to beat Conor. There was no way he was going to allow Conor to win this fight. And honestly, if they were to fight again, I do believe Conor can get it done. I know a lot of you guys are probably looking at me like I'm crazy, or thinking that I'm crazy for saying that. But, like I said, you guys are not wrong for those people out there to think that Conor has nothing for Khabib. If they were to fight again, it would just be the same outcome, and Conor would just get destroyed. But honestly, I believe Conor can get it done. He wants this fight so bad, and he wants this fight for a reason. He wants this fight because he knows he could win. And their first fight, for Conor having a layoff, I know a lot of people think that ring rust isn't really like a real thing. There's some fighters that say ring rust is real, ring rust is just in your mind, ring rust is false. But from him coming from a boxing match, I'm not really going to call it ring rust, but he came in there with like a different style, I believe having such of a high magnitude boxing match, Conor must have had the highest like training in boxing. This guy, Conor, he worked his ass off for that Floyd fight, and to do all of that boxing training, the high level boxing training for a high level fight of this magnitude, to go up against arguably the best boxer who has ever done it, the best defensive boxer in the world, for that to be Conor McGregor's debut, he had to just pretty much completely change his boxing approach. He wasn't going to go in there, with the same MMA stance. He knew that he needed to go in there and be a boxer. So to come back after that huge magnitude fight where that was his only focus for so long, and then having a long layoff, then coming back to fight the greatest lightweight the world has ever seen in Khabib, it's not really a shock that Conor lost. Like where Conor lost against Nate Diaz the first time, where fighting at 170, where he had no business fighting in to begin with, but Conor still took the fight because he's that kind of guy. He'll take a fight anybody, any place, anywhere. And, with the whole incident with Khabib jumping into the crowd and after their first fight, and, Conor ended up throwing dollies at the bus, prior to their first fight. And, all this stuff could just pretty much writes itself. It builds itself. But if they were to fight again, I believe that they will get more pay-per-view buys than they did the first time. And for those of you that don't know, this fight had the most pay-per-view buys in UFC history at 2.4 million buys. It crushed every other pay-per-view numbers out there. It's number one, and it's holding itself in number one. And I think like the top three have Conor McGregor's name in it, with Khabib and Conor being the very number one pay-per-view buys, the very number one numbers in the UFC that broke records and made history all in its own. And I think if these guys went at it again, I do believe Conor can go in there and pull out, the victory and actually get his hand raised. But I would not be surprised if Khabib were to pull it up, pull the victory and come out with the W once again. And that is the reason why I wish that they will make this fight again. And hopefully Khabib beats Poirier with the up-and-coming fight, because I would love to see Khabib Conor again. But who would not love to see Khabib versus Tony Ferguson? I know all you guys want to see that out there, but that's neither here nor there. And honestly, if these guys were to do it again, I do believe Conor would do it, but I would not be surprised if Khabib ended up coming up with the W once again, like I said. And I really hope that they make this fight happen once again. And if they do, I know it will break barriers and make new history, with it being number 1 and number 2 as the highest pay-per-view buys in UFC history. But if you guys enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. You give me your thoughts on who you think will win this fight in the rematch, if they were to have a rematch, and I'll see you guys in the next one.